Well, hey YouTube, it's Petey, and we are going to RogerWaters.com. We're going to read about the Animals album, the new mix update. A note from Roger Waters to Pink Floyd fans. As I am banned by David Gilmour from posting on Pink Floyd's Facebook page with its 300 million subscribers, I'm posting this announcement here today and in full on RogerWaters.com. First, a warm welcome back to our little band of brothers and sisters who have always kept an open mind. Let's hope some of the fans who can access my words is suppressed by David Gilmour and find their way here and discover some truth. What precipitated this note is that there are a few James Guthrie stereo and 5.1 mixes of the Pink Floyd album Animals 1977. These mixes have languished unreleased because of a dispute over some sleeve notes that Mark Blake has written for this new release. Gilmour has vetoed this release of the album unless those liner notes are removed. He does not dispute the veracity of the history described in Mark's notes, but he wants that history to remain secret. This is a small part of an ongoing campaign by the Gilmour/Sampson camp to claim more credit for Dave on the work he did in Pink Floyd from 1967 to 1985 than is his due. He was and is a jolly good guitarist and singer, but he has for the last 35 years told a lot of whopping porky lies about who did what in Pink Floyd when I was still in charge. There was a lot of we did this and we did that, I did this and I did that. So two things. Number one, I am agreeing that the release of the new Animals remix with the sleeve notes removed. Good work, James Guthrie, by the way, and sorry, Mark Blake. The final draft of the liner notes was fact-checked and agreed as factually correct by me, Nick, and Gilmour. Here they are. Enjoy. There's nothing controversial, just a few simple facts. Mark Blake, liner notes, Pink Floyd, Animals. Oh my god. These guys just fucking grow up. Dave Gilmour and Polly Sampson. Your fucking Von Trapp family make me fucking sick. Despite being recorded in London during the long summer heat wave of 1976, this was punk. Pink Floyd's Animals remains a dark album. Its critique of capitalism and greed caught the prevailing mood in Britain, a time of industrial strife, economic turmoil. The troubles in Northern Ireland and the race riots of Notting Hill. The album was released on January 23rd, 1977, but the roots of Pink Floyd's 10th studio album go back earlier in the decade. Following the success of 1973's Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd pondered their next move. For a 2 to 3 week jam session early in 1974, the band worked on ideas for 3 new compositions. From these sessions, the band developed Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which was a passionate tribute to Syd Barrett, words by Roger Waters, added by me. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Oh, okay. Waters added that. Which became the centerpiece of Floyd's next album, Wish You Were Here, and Raving and Drooling, composed by Waters, and You Gotta Be Crazy, written by Waters and David Gilmour. Raving and Drooling was a tale of violent social disorder, while You Gotta Be Crazy was the story of a soulless businessman clawing and cheating his way to the top. Both were performed live for the first time on Floyd's Winter Tour of 1974. They were both considered for the Wish You Were Here album, but Roger insisted that neither song was relevant to the overall idea that Wish You Were Here was essentially about absence. And as neither song fitted the conception of the record's overall theme, neither song should be included. The band eventually concurred. Scroll forward 2 years, and Roger had an idea for the next Pink Floyd album. He borrowed from the George Orwell allegorical story Animal Farm, in which pigs and other farmyard animals were reimagined anthropomorphically. That's a big word. Waters portrays the human race as three subspecies trapped in a violent, vicious cycle, with sheep serving despotic pigs and authoritarian dogs. You Gotta Be Crazy and Raving and Drooling fitted perfectly into this new concept. In the meantime, a year earlier, the group had bought a set of disused church buildings in Britannia Row, Islington, which they converted into a studio and storage facility. Prior to this, every Pink Floyd studio release had been partly or wholly recorded at Abbey Road Studios. Pink Floyd also found a new recording engineer, Brian Humphreys, an engineer from Pi Studios, who they had met and recorded the soundtrack for More, a movie directed by Barbet Schroeder. Brian had gone on to engineer Wish You Were Here at Abbey Road and also helped them out on the road, so he had gotten to know them well. Using their own studio marked a significant change in their working methods. There were setbacks and teething problems, but also a great sense of freedom. Following Roger's instincts about the new songs paid off. The songs had an aggressive edge far removed from the luxuriant soundscapes on Wish You Were Here. It was a timely change of direction. At Britannia Row, he renamed Raving and Drooling Sheep, and Gotta Be Crazy became Dogs. The narrative was completed by the addition of two new songs, Pigs, Three Different Ones, and Pigs on the Wing. Pigs, Three Different Ones, the lyrics name-checked Mary Whitehouse, the head of the National Viewers and Listeners Association. Whitehouse was an outspoken critic of sex and violence on British television and the topical target for Roger's ire. The subject matter was bleak, but Nick Mason recalled lighter moments, overdubbing songs with special effects and barnyard noises, while Sheep also made room for Roger's blackly comic variation on Psalm 23, He maketh me to hang on hooks in high places, He converteth me to lamb cutlets. The music and the performance mirrored the intensity of the lyrics. Keyboard player Richard Wright's eerie-sounding synths and Hammond organ cranked up the unease, while David Gilmour's shared lead vocal on Dogs and his guitar playing throughout Animals offered a striking counterpoint to Roger's brutal lyrics. In contrast, Animals began and ended on an optimistic note. The verses of Pigs on the Wing were split in two that bookended the album. Roger's lyric and vocal performance of the acoustic intro and outro, You know that I care what happens to you, and I know that you care for me too, suggested hope for humanity. The idea for Pink Floyd's Flying Pig was also Roger's. He had already commissioned it building as a stage device for the next tour. Storm Thurgeson and Aubrey Powell of the design company Hypnosis had produced a number of design ideas for Animal's sleeve and presented them to the band, but none of the band liked them. When Roger added his own disapproval, someone said, well, why don't you come up with something better then? So he did. On the drive from his house to the south from the drive from his house on the drive from his house in South London to Britannia Row, he regularly passed the Battersea Power Station. He was drawn in by the imposing brick building, and then by the number 4 in the band, 4 phallic chimneys, and the power station were turned upside down. It resembled a table with 4 legs. He pursued the idea and had a maquette made, a small-scale model, with the eventual full-scale inflatable pig. He then took the photographs of Battersea Power Station and created a photographic mock-up of an album sleeve. The rest of the band loved it. Storm and Poe, who had designed all previous Pink Floyd album covers, graciously offered to source photographs for the photo shoot and did. On the first day of the photo shoot, the pig failed to inflate. On the second day, it broke free of its moorings and disappeared into a beautifully brooding sky, prompting a frantic call to the police to halt all flights in and out of Heathrow. The pig eventually crash landed in a farmer's field in Kent. The following day, the chute went off without a hitch. Great shots of the pig in situ, but no brooding sky. So Storm and Poe stripped the day 3 pig into the day 2 sky, and bingo, history. Animals was a hit, reaching number 2 in UK and number 3 in the US. Pink Floyd's Pig, Algae, made its live debut on the subsequent In the Flesh tour in 1977. At stadium shows in America, it was joined by another Waters idea, an inflatable nuclear family comprising a mother, father, and 2.5 children, surrounded by the spoils of a consumerist lifestyle, an inflatable Cadillac, an oversized TV, and a refrigerator. Roger called it electric theater. Both the album and the tour signposted the way to Pink Floyd's next release, The Wall, and to Roger's ever more ambitious ideas, both in terms of music, narratives, politics, and stage shows. But his themes and ideas explored on Animals have endured. More than 40 years since the album has been remixed in stereo and 5.1. In troubled times and an uncertain world, Animals is as timely and as relevant now as it ever was. Mark Blake. Thanks, Mark. Sorry you were redacted. Number 2, I am in the middle of writing my memoirs. Oh, now it gets good. And inevitably, some of it contains references to some content above. For anyone with a faint heart, I suggest you sit down. But anyone who likes a good laugh, sit back and fucking howl. I'm going to sit back and howl among you. And he's got the crying laughing emoji, the sideways crying laughing emoji, and then something that goes like this, which I'm not sure what that means. In the beginning of this post on the subject of porcupines, I say there's an awful lot of we did this, we did that, I did this, I did that. Right? So here's a short extract from my memoir. As chance would have it, I was doing a bit of delving in a book of press clippings and came across an interview of David Frick of Rolling Stone magazine he did with David Gilmour in a hotel room in New York in 1982. David Gilmour talking about cash register tape for the defining 7/8 rhythm on Money. The interview was published in Musician magazine, so even back then, David Gilmour was sowing the seeds of the false narrative. I quote this bit of the article verbatim. David Frick, you recorded sounds for Money on a loop of tape. David Gilmour explains, you're trying to get the impact from the cash register. That snap, crack, whoosh. You mark that and then one measure how long you wanted that beat to go, and that's the piece you use. And then you chop it together. It was trial and error. You just chop the tapes together, and if it sounds good, you use it. If it doesn't, you take one section out and you put in a different one. Sometimes we put one in and it would be backwards because the diagonal cut on the tape. If you turn it around, it's exactly the same. We'd stick that in, instead it would go chung dum whoosh and sound great, so we'd use that. Well, the reason everything Dave Gilmour is saying here to Mark Frick sounds like gobbledygook is because it's fucking gobbledygook. He has no fucking idea what he's talking about. Why? Because unless he was hiding under the fucking chair, David Gilmour wasn't there when I made the sound effects tape loop for Money in the studio that I shared with my wife Judy at the bottom of our garden at 187 New North Rose, Islington, next door to the North Pole pub where I used to play darts. And I've known about that. When he first got married, he had a shed, which was his home studio where he did demos, where he would be in there all the time working. And that's where that fucking loop came from. So, Gilmour, Waters is going to be calling him out. This, his memoirs, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the truth, more truth to come out. And any anytime Waters pops up and says anything, if you read the comment section, there's more people tearing into him than there are people supporting him. The people that support him are the people that get it, the true fans that understand. And of course, yes, Roger Waters did not do all of this work himself. He needed those other guys, and he understands that. Waters understands their contributions to it. Okay? The facts remain that after Waters left, everything David Gilmour did was not on par. It was horrible, especially the Pink Floyd albums. Now, some of the music on his solo albums is good, and some of it's great. And on an Island is a great album, I got to admit. But then you put up against what Roger Waters did, Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, Radio Chaos, which was a little bit wacky, I'll admit. And then Amused to Death, and Is This the Life We Really Want? And what that adds up is just a way higher pedigree. It's so much better than the David Gilmour stuff, and then the tours that he did. Okay, so the proof in their work, like if you just look at what these guys did, it's yeah, okay. Waters had a real chip on his shoulder for a while, and he's kind of let that go now. So, like, on his first solo tours, it would be like there was going to be a guitar solo come up, and it would just be sax solo. Like, he did a lot of stuff that the music suffered. Now, somewhere around the time when he had Doyle Bramall III in the band, things changed, and he got serious about playing this music live, and they really did honor it, and it was incredible how good they sounded. So you have that too. It's complicated, but the overall, like, if you're a sane Pink Floyd fan and you're not gonna like choose one side and like that guy. I mean, are there any out there? It seems like there's no middle ground. I mean, I try to be realistic about this, and I try to respect David Gilmour, but I just can't. I can't. I understand Waters wrote this stuff, and he was in charge because no one else would do the work. And then he's demonized and victimized after the fact because as soon as he says the band's over, Gilmour takes the name. The whole thing hinges on those two albums, Momentary Lapse of Reason and The Division Bell. Okay? 2 words, Publius Enigma. You know about that? I mean, come on, man. Come on. There is no comparison to what Roger Waters did with that band than how Gilmour ruined it. And the reaction on social media, anytime Roger Waters comes out and says anything, you have all these people jumping in going, David Gilmour has a better voice. Roger never would have been able to record his Wall album if it wasn't for David Gilmour singing and playing his guitar. He wrote Comfortably Numb. Have you heard the Wall demos? Have you heard them? I mean, I don't know what to say because these people that they hate Roger Waters and they throng anytime he opens his mouth. And I mean, what he's saying is he's being censored from the Pink Floyd website, and this is a band that he built. It was his band. So, I mean, I cannot wait for this to come out because there's going to be more truth, and fuck David Gilmour. Fuck Polly Sampson. How dare you?